22 years, I've been celebrating one of the most important days of my life after my wedding anniversary, after my birthday. But it's definitely up there with all the other special holidays. It's called G Day. And specifically, it focuses on who I am. So, my question today for you is, who are you? Hello and welcome to Ladies Listen Up. I am your host, Gwendolyn G.R. Houston Jack, and today I want to talk about who are you? Now, every September 25th to be exact, I take the day off to celebrate me. It is called G Day. And if I'm not mistaken, next year I'll probably make it into a special holiday. I'm going to have t shirts, mugs, keychains, the whole nine yards. But seriously, it is my anniversary. And when I say my anniversary, when I say it's G Day, September 25th, 2001, is the day that I decided to start living my life the way I wanted to and being my authentic self. Now, I know what you're saying. People are talking about authenticity every single second, so it seems. And for some of us, it's almost a cliche. Be authentic, show up authentically, be yourself, do you. It's not necessarily easier said than done, but it definitely takes some work. So let me set the stage for you really quick, because a lot of moments in our lives are stationed around a major event, a life-changing event. And I've had a couple, but this particular event really brought everything to the forefront. Now, I will tell you that I was already starting to feel as if there was a push and pull between the way that people saw me and what I was expected to do and the life I wanted to live. There was a push and pull there. Now, the stage is New York City. 1999, New York City. Of all the places a girl can go to grow up, it's New York City. As a matter of fact, if there is ever a place that may push you to be authentic, it's the Big Apple, hands down. So I'm there to attend school, feeling pretty good, but I am surrounded by people who are literally living, at least in my perception, their best life. Now, I'm from Houston, Texas, good old southern states, where you don't go out with rollers in your hair. You don't even go out without looking proper and appropriate. You have your slip on, make sure you have on your hose. There's so many rules to southern living, so many rules. I just really wasn't feeling those rules. I wasn't feeling them. There was a mentor who told me I was a northerner who was born in the South. I believe that. I really do believe it. So I'm watching these people live what appeared to be this really free life. Their hair was whatever it wanted to do. Their clothes was whatever felt right for them. And they were smiling. These people were walking around the city happy as clams in high tide. And I wanted that for myself. I wanted it so bad. I was like, wow, just to go out and not care what somebody says, to not be concerned about what someone may think. God, it felt good. It was intoxicating. And I wanted it. I wanted it bad. So I started thinking, what can I do to have that life? What can I do? This was a time where doing the big chop was a huge thing. Right? It was huge. So I immediately decided to put my hair in braids and grow out my relaxer and make that move towards the big chop. That was the idea. And we started working. And now it's September 2001. And I remember I got up on one particular day. It was commuter day. We were getting ready to create this event for all the New York City students who commute into the campus. And someone came in and said, someone hit the World Trade Center. And I thought, wait, what? Now I'm attending the Fashion Institute of Technology, FIT for short. And there's this huge bridge, has beautiful big windows, and you can see the World Trade Center dead in center. And so as I'm crossing the bridge, I go out to stop. I see smoke. I'm thinking, how do you miss these two huge buildings the clearest of day? How's that possible? Well, you all know the story of what happened on that day. And it changed a lot of us, a lot of us. But for 2 weeks, the city was in mourning. Like, we didn't have subway service. You could still smell this electrical, human loss smell that came up from lower Manhattan. It was just, we were like zombies. We were operating but not operating. And then September 25th came. And the mayor said, "Hey, we have to start living again. We have to move forward. It's time to start anew with this new way of life that we have to put our arms around." And I got up that morning and I went to class. And when I went to break, I said, "You know what, Gwendolyn? Today is your new day." I mean, the mayor has already said it. We are starting new. I went down 23rd Street, this little boutique there. And I said, "I need you to cut this off. Just leave the new growth, but cut it off." She went to chopping, and Gwendolyn was reborn. Now, I say that because for the longest time, I had allowed, yes, allowed people to call me Gwen. I will tell you now, that is not my name. I am Gwendolyn. G, if you want to say anything, but Gwendolyn G.R. Houston Jack. It's beautiful. It's regal. It is elegant. All three syllables. I love them. But that day became the day that I defined who I was, what I stood for, how I define beauty, and how I want the world to see and receive me. Now, I'm not going to say that the road was easy. I'm telling you, there were some bumps all along the road. There were some bumps. But I loved those bumps. And when I look back now, I can't help but celebrate the life that I chose to live. 22 years, God bless, 22 years. And we're still moving forward. So now the question becomes, who are you? Who are you? It's one of the questions that people hate to answer in a job interview, and I don't blame them because without proper context, you might just say something. But however, I have found that as an individual, we really do probably ought to have a basic introduction as to who we are. Now, the person I am today, clearly, I am not the person I was back in 2001. I'm not that person, not even close. And it doesn't it doesn't get lost on me that when people say, "Oh my God, Gwendolyn, you've done this and you're this and you're that," it's like, but you're looking at work in progress. You're looking at work in progress here. This was not an overnight trip. This was not an overnight project. This is work in progress. Every single day, we are working towards being a better version of ourselves. So when we say, "Who are you?" as a woman specifically, a lot of us have to look past the traditional roles that society has placed upon us, that we have easily accepted or allowed to be placed upon us. A lot of us will probably go with, I am a mother, sister, daughter, auntie, a caregiver. We may go with what our job or current career is. I'm an attorney, legal assistant, county clerk, bus driver, whatever it is. We like to look for titles to help define our space in society. But our jobs do not define who we are. Our roles in the family structure does not define who we are. They're just a role that we play at any particular time, right? When I'm here in my home, I'm Gwendolyn. When the husband comes home, I'm now a wife. If the grandkids come over, I'm now a grandmother. But none of those roles define who I am as a person and what I stand for, what I believe in, what gets me out of the bed in the morning. So when we sit down to really talk about who we are and start the process of moving towards a more authentic life, we got to look at who we are. Literally, look in the mirror and write down the things that we see. One of the best exercises someone gave to me was to just write down all the little things that I could think about that I love about Gwendolyn. And when I started writing them down, some things came to fruition. I'm a creative who love to create. I can cook with the best of them. I can bake like no other. I'm also a photographer and a writer and an adult educator. We love to create. We love to teach others. We are nurturing. I can get into the garden. I'm not creating any vegetables yet. I mean, there is a cactus. It's kind of hard to kill. There's daylilies, but they're very hardy. But we have other aspects of our identity to help identify who we are. So ask yourself, if you could design your best life, what would it look like? What would you do? Where would you be? Who would be around you? What would you contribute to your community? How would you spend your day? What are some of your hobbies? What do you enjoy? Because in order for us to truly walk, live in our purpose, in our authenticity, we have to know who we're talking about. Now, I know what you're saying. How can I possibly not know who I'm talking about? Let me give you a really quick example. Because, as I said before, the lady who sits before you is not the lady who was here 20 something years ago. I remember dating this guy who, in the moment, yeah, I got caught up. I did. You know, I'm a fairly intelligent, okay, not fairly, I'm just being modest, but I'm a pretty intelligent chick. Very smart and gifted. They said in school, she's gifted. And somehow I met a guy that found himself in some legal troubles and being so green. You know how you're green because love just solves all the problems. I was green. And he found himself in these legal, troubling waters that put him behind bars. Now, I gotta tell you, I, I was the person who said there is never going to be a case where Gwendolyn is writing letters to a guy in jail. Like, who does that? I did that. I did that. Before he went to jail, let me just also talk about when you're not secure in who you are, how you can easily turn to buying people things to get their affection. You're buying shoes, you're buying clothes, you're buying CDs because it's the 90s. You're buying books, magazines. You are shelling out money that you really don't have. So now you are living beyond your means, all to keep the attention and the affection of this person. Mind you, when this person is with you, they don't hold your hands because you work in retail and and your hands are too dry for me to hold your hand. And when you're out in public, they don't always beside you, they walk in front of you. So it's like you're together, but you're not really together. And this person reminds you that in order to be attractive, you have to be super thin. And your hair needs to be a little bit longer. I don't mind the short hair, but if it was a little bit longer, maybe I ought to get some braids. Get some braids. Because that'll make your hair longer and that'll make you look cute. And you'll be prettier if you have some braids. Never thought that that would be my situation. Because, like, how is that even possible? How is it possible that someone who's intelligent and bright and gifted could fall for a guy who is a douchebag? How did that happen? It happens to a lot of us. It happens far more than we realize. And I thought to myself, is it me? Is it me? Now here's the beauty of decisions that we make because sometimes when you're in the muck of your mess, you can't see just how dirty it is. You don't recognize how awful it is. And sometimes your loved ones don't see it either. So, but when you remove yourself from an environment, because he did go to jail, and Gwen, who was committed to the relationship, said, well, I'm going to forego going to college in New York City and I'm going to stay here. He's like, no, because if you do it, you'll resent me and I don't want that. It's probably one of the smartest things he said, real talk. So now I'm outside my bubble and I'm living this life that is brand new and sparkly. And I am writing the chapters as I'm walking the streets of New York City. It's that fresh. And I'm looking back at this other life, this other chapter. And I'm saying to myself, I don't think we need to keep this book open. I think this whole entire chapter, we can't erase it because it is what happened. But that book needs to be sealed and put on a shelf. We will never go down that path again. Never. Never say never. Never, never, never go down that path again. The first time I came back and he was still locked up, but my hair was gone. His first words were, you should get a relaxer and relax that. And I thought that is the most amazing thing you've ever said to me. Because if I knew that my idea of beauty didn't meet his, ugh, That's all I need, bruh. That's all I needed. We haven't looked back since. Never, not once. So I tell you this story for this particular reason. Some of us are living the lives that someone else wanted for us. It takes a lot to step out on your own and really be authentic to who you are, to live the life you dream of, because it doesn't have to be a dream. This is all truly within your reach. You can have it. And as a woman, society tells us that we should be caregivers, that we should put everyone else's needs before our own. The society tells us that. I mean, even other women tell us that because that's the role they've always played, and that's the only role they know. That's how they define themselves. If someone else is happy, if someone else is calling for them to fix something, if someone else needs them, that's how they define their role. Now, hear me clearly. I have grandbabies. I love my grandkids. I do. I love them dearly. But that's not the only role that I have. And when people meet me, is not the first thing that I talk about. There's a whole lot to Gwendolyn. There's an entire book. Well, actually, I don't know. Maybe it's like 4, 5 books to Gwendolyn. Not 4 or 5, maybe 6. So for you, if you're ready to start this journey on figuring out what your best life is, on making the most of the time you have on this earth, then here are some tips for you. Now, I want to put in a little bit of asterisk because I have to make sure I say this. There is always a place for a counselor or therapist. I highly suggest it. Highly. But I will say this. If you want to do a little bit of work before you seek out professional guidance on this path, then these are some ideas for you. That is what I want to tell you. So, are you ready to do the work? Doing the work. Okay, so here's the deal. Anything worth having is worth working for. When I tell you 22 years doing this work, trust. 22 years. So please don't think it's like a sprint for those of you who have ran track or who are runners now. This is an ultra marathon, but it's beautiful. And the reward, it is so worth it. So, a couple of things. As we mentioned earlier, writing a list of how you define your best life is the first thing. The very first thing I would suggest you do. Write down, what do you want? Because a lot of people, and this, I believe, it is tied to how society tells us how to communicate, specifically as women. So just want to make sure I'm clear here. We don't really get to talk about our own wants. Like, consider it. If you are dating someone, it's never about your pleasure. It's always about the other person. It's about your partner. Is your partner happy? Is your partner satisfied? No one ever asks, is she satisfied? What does she want? What does she need? What does she deserve? That's rarely the conversation. It is, if you want a partner, you have to do this. Women have to do this. Women, da, da, da. We'll save that for another conversation. But write down how you would design, yes, design your best life. because these are choices. We have choices. Now, when I say it's going to feel a little wonky, the phrase I love is becoming comfortable with being uncomfortable. Got to get into it. It's a beautiful thing. One of my favorite books that I highly suggest is Design Yourself by Con Rashid. And it is rethinking the way you live, love, work, and play. Now, I bought this book, oh my goodness, years ago. Years ago. He is an industrial designer and had this book signing. And I had read the book and I really fell in love with it. And once a year, typically January, February, I read the book because he digs into how do you design the life you want. This is not just the job, the car you want to drive. This is looking at your relationships. Now, a lot of us talk about having 5,000 friends, and I know Facebook has jacked that up for us. They're not all your friends. Surely your grandmother, your mother, some other wise woman has told you this. Everybody is not your friends. But you don't need 5,000 friends. You don't need them. You need really solid relationships, solid, caring relationships. That's what you want. That's what you need. That's what you deserve. When it comes to how you play, do you want to go on weekend trips? Want to spend some time in your backyard on a hammock? Do you just enjoy just sitting at the park, feeding the birds? How do you want to live in your home? Minimalist? A world filled with pretty things? How you define pretty? These are the questions you can ask yourself. He even goes so far as to define your memorial service. Now, people typically get upset when it comes to death. I think it's a celebration. Somebody has gone home. God bless them. So we get to decide how we show up in the world and we can design the life we want. So, as we close this out, I leave this with you. Give yourself the space and grace to grow and learn. This is an ultra marathon. And I'm going to be right here with you, chugging along.